She has the perfect life. The perfect husband.
Eat me.
The perfect career.
I want to help you.
I'm not so sure you can.
The perfect flesh.
What just happened?
All right, we've gotten another H.P. Lovecraft adaptation movie. I haven't seen one of those in a while, but whatever. Okay, so Suitable Flesh. So I heard of this movie last year, and when I heard about it, I was kind of under the impression like, okay, so it's just another like body swap movie. All right, whatever. But then I found out that it was based on H.P. Lovecraft's story, The Thing on the Doorstep. And I'm like, okay, so if it's Lovecraft based, we'll see how this goes. So I've only I've heard the Thing on the Doorstep once, and it was a while ago. And I wanted to try and like hear it again, and to get like this part, like what do they do differently and this kind of stuff, because these are the same filmmakers more or less who did like Reanimator and From Beyond from the 80s, and those two movies, while they are fun, gory films, they're not really good adaptations of Lovecraft's actual stories, because in those ones, they take the characters and locations and kind of make their own story, and very rarely do they throw in like, hey, that's from the story, hey, this is from the story. So when it came to this, I was kind of going like, all right, what's gonna be like, is this going to be like an accurate version, or is it just going to be kind of like what Reanimator and From Beyond did, where we use the characters and locations, or do we just ignore all of that and just make our own thing? And I would say the closest movie that I can think of at the moment that is pretty close to being accurate to a Lovecraft story was Color Out of Space, that came out a couple years ago. That movie, while they changed the time period, it's pretty accurate. They added some new stuff, and the new stuff they added was, I thought, pretty good, and was actually pretty on par. It was pretty close to the actual story of Color Out of Space. So going into this, I was kind of skeptical about it and going like, okay, what are they going to do? And well, this one, I don't love it, but I don't hate it. And I'll tell you why. So the plot of the movie is you have this woman who's a doctor, who's played by Heather Graham. She is she treats patients. She's very much a forget the occupation. But she helps patients out, and then one day this guy comes in who is, I forget the actor's name, but is played by the kid who is the kid in The Babysitter, which is the only other movie I've seen him in. I haven't seen Babysitter 2 yet, but despite what people have told me about it and what I've kind of seen about it, I'm like, yeah, that does not sound good. But I did like the first one, so I'm glad he's getting more work. But he comes in and he's like kind of paranoid, and then all of a sudden, like through like a seizure, he just all of a sudden switches to being like a completely different person. So then throughout the course of the movie, you find out that there's the person who we believe is this kid's father. He actually has connections with like dark arts and possibly a Necronomicon, which we kind of see in the movie, kind of like like something like esque like that. But throughout the course of the movie, people start like swapping bodies, and then if they do it for, I believe, the third time, it's then permanent. Like you're stuck as that person for the rest of your life. So again, I wanted to listen to, The Thing on the Doorstep before I do this. Before I wanted to review it, but I wanted to get this out because I just watched this like earlier today, like as I'm recording this. So, okay, the good. The performances pretty good, and also like Barbara Crampton comes in, who plays like best friends with Heather Graham, who's also a doctor as well, and kind of gets caught in the mix of all this. Well, this movie, while it is gory, and I'll say this, a lot of the gore in this movie, or a lot of the gore effects, they're actually all practical, and it looks pretty cool. So I'm like, all right, cool, they kept that up. Another thing too is that this movie, there's a lot of sexual stuff in this movie. A lot. Like there's quite a bit of sex scenes. It almost blurs between the lines. It's not like, there's not like a whole lot of nudity, but there is a lot of sexual stuff and all that stuff. So I wouldn't say this is kind of on the lines of something like Veronica, where that film was literally pretty much a porno. This, I wouldn't put it in that category. It is very close, but it's not going over the limit to something like you would possibly see in a porno. But I would say the performances were pretty good. The practical effects were pretty cool. Now, the script could have used a punch up. It could have used a punch up. Now, the effects. I was talking great about the practical effects, which is great. There's green screen stuff and some like very brief CGI parts. They are pretty bad. They're pretty bad. It is very noticeable. Mainly the green screen parts where it's like, whoa, that looks really bad. It looks like they put it in After Effects and then didn't think about like, oh, wait a minute, we actually have to, go in and like fidget with it. It's not like a slap it in the program and let the program do it. It's like, no, the program is going to help you out, but you actually have to go in and do a lot of it yourself. And they just said, screw that part, and we're possibly not going to even render this part. And it's very obvious. The green screen parts, it's very, very, very obvious. The CGI part, there's really only one part where... No, actually, I take that back. There's a couple parts that's CGI. It's like, yeah, that's really bad. And there's like one part where I don't really want to spoil a whole lot, but there is a part where a character falls out of a couple-story building and hits the pavement. I'm not going to say, what character it was or, what happens beyond that. But they show a part where, right when he hits the pavement, and I'm like, wow, that was really bad. And like, you could have easily like not had that shot in there where it's like, you could have easily had a reaction shot of somebody, and then you hear the noises, and then you can possibly, if they wanted to, they could show the aftermath, after that part, and it would have been easier and it would have been better. But the fact that, they show that part, it's like, whoa, that was really bad. And also some parts in here where I'm like, what? Like, okay, that doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. So, But another good thing I will say is that this movie is filled, like, if you are a big fan of like H.P. Lovecraft's work, and you kind of know the world he set up, there's a ton of references to his stuff. Like, I saw a reference to the Dunwich Horror. There's a part where you see a, like, almost like it's like a statue or even like a bust of that looks very similar to Cthulhu. And I'm like, hey, look at that. That's cool. And they don't really, like, you know, linger on those things. So it's kind of just sitting there. And, you know, if you kind of like dart your eyes around and you see it and you're like, oh, hey, look at that. That's cool. But it's not like thrown in your face where they say, like, yeah, like that business down in Dunwich, like, that a year ago. They don't do that. It's just there, and then it's kind of for you to find. So it's like a typical Easter egg. You know, they don't like try to make it part of the script or don't say anything about it. It's just it's just there, and then if you see it, great, and if not, like, yeah, it's just, you know, just okay, that's totally fine. So I will give them that. But overall, I think if the movie had a little better script, the effect, mainly the special effects, not the practical effects. The special effects were better, were more cleaned up, and yeah, like a script got punched up, and like some of the situations, I feel like this would have been a much better movie. So I think there's a really, really good movie in here, but yeah, and I will give him this. Like, I always say, like, I applaud, you know, actors who, when they perform sex scenes, I always applaud them for this. And with this, it's like, wow, okay, that was quite extreme. I'm surprised, you know, they agreed to do that, but it's brave, you know, and I applaud them for it. So if I go back and listen to the Thing on the Doorstep again, and why I say listen to it is because I don't read for anything, and yeah, I like hearing it. I don't read it, because when I start looking at a page and I don't like flip the page soon, I start falling asleep. Like, there have been numerous times where I've started reading a book and I fall asleep. And then somebody catches me and they say, why did you fall asleep? I'm like, because I'm looking at a book. And so, yeah. But I think overall, this movie is an average. You know, there's things I did like. There's things I didn't like. I don't think it's awful. I don't think it's great. But, you know, it's a good, like, almost like B movie, pretty much. So, and it also didn't help that I kind of was predicting parts throughout it. I'm like, yeah, they're probably going to do this. And then it happened. I was like, yep, that's kind of what I thought. You know, like, I called it. So, yeah, who knows? But, yeah, if you like Lovecraft stuff, you know, this might be up your alley. An accurate representation of Lovecraft's story, maybe. I'm not particularly sure on that one. But, you know, this is, you know, it's a B movie, so yeah, it's a sexy B movie. That's what it's a sexy, gory B movie. That's pretty much what this is. So if you watch it, you know, going into that mentality, you might actually get a kick out of this.
You're that patient. What happened to Elizabeth Derby?
You have to believe me, Danny.
It's a fantasy to spice up your sex life.
I think I'm losing my mind.